Hello, everybody. Thanks for clicking in to All Geeked Out. Appreciate you coming aboard. Today, we're going to hit on some maybe not prevalent topics, but we're getting into the scary season. I hate the spooky season. I love the spooky season. I hate calling it the spooky season. Spooky is the least scary word that, you know, horror could actually get on board with. Spooky. It's so not spooky. It's so not scary. So when I talk about this season, I'm gonna call it the scary season. Fuck your spooky season, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. So we're gonna dive right into it. I'm not gonna do any because I know what happens. What I do every time I start to talk about, this is happening now and this is going on, and then I get into these big fucking long, just speeches and diatribes about everything. So which I'm doing right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna dive right into this list. All right. So what I'm gonna do is my top 13 horror movies that I've seen up to this point. All right, so we're at the end of July. Today's July 30th. I've seen a bunch. There might be a couple that got released in the past week or so I haven't seen, and there's some that I haven't seen that came out in January. I mean, so just to clarify my list, I'm going through some of the more prominent horror movies, like the big releases. I've seen a shit ton of. I have Shudder. I watch it regularly. It's hit or miss, a lot of them. But when you find those gems, they're really good. I don't remember. I might have put a few on my list. And I am going to say I do have external device, if you want to call it. I do like to preach that I don't use any external internet devices or anything like that. I mean, my phone is right here. It's black. So, it was black before I unplugged it, but I'm not using it. This is all from my head. I feel like any fucking douchebag can come on here and put fucking Wikipedia on or IMDb and spout all this shit like it's coming out of their heads. I do it for real. But obviously, when you have lists, you have to kind of compile your lists, so to speak. So I'm going to do this episode is going to be my top 13 horror movies I've seen that have come out this year. Now, a couple of them were released in 2023, later in the year, and I think all of them were foreign releases. So when I looked at the release dates, I didn't see them around here. So I think they might have been released locally or wherever the country of origin was, and then globally in 2024. So that's going to be this episode. My next episode, my beautiful wife is going to join us, and we're going to talk about our 13 most anticipated horror movies coming out for the rest of the year. So, yeah, we're 7 months into the year. We got 5 months left. You might think this would be a good half. Put it right between on June 30th, July 1st, half of the year. But let's face it, more of the stuff comes out later in the year around the scary season, and I think the better movies are coming out later in the year. So I think this is a good point. I think this is a good spot. I had 13 very solid entries in both lists. Some of the entries on my anticipated lists, they may come out in 2024. They may come out in 2025. It's up for, they're kind of figuring it out, So that's my little caveat. That's my disclaimer. All these movies may not be coming out in 2024, but that's for my next episode. Right now, we're getting into the top 13 horror movies that I have seen so far in 2024. All right, and I just want to say, I did an episode recently about the state of sci-fi, and I think I mentioned, and then the next episode, I covered a movie that I'll be covering on here, Longlegs, and I kind of mentioned how like the contrast between sci-fi, the contrast between sci-fi like on one of those down waves, and horror is on one of those up waves. You know, this happens all the time. It happens with every genre of movie. But right now, and here is where I'm going to explain how I feel horror is on an upswing. Okay, so we're going to get right into it. All right, I'm going to start with number 13, The Watchers. Now, this movie it's number 13 on my list. I mean, and I had really high hopes for this movie. Like I thought it was going to be good. I saw the trailer. You got Dakota Fanning, who's a horror sci-fi movie kind of legend already. I mean, as a child actress, she was in a lot of films. She was very popular child actor. She's one of the few child actors that kind of transcend into like being a full blown adult actress, what have you. And she's good, kind of good. I'm not a big fan of her. Like she's always got that just deadpan, like kind of like look. Like she's not. I don't feel like she's very versatile as an actor. But in this movie, and this movie kind of showcases that. You have a few good supporting actors in this film. That lady with the white hair, and she keeps showing up. She's like an Irish actress, I think, and I can't think of her name. She was in the movie The Survivalist, which I've covered in the past on my post-apocalyptic top 20 films. She was in that. She's been popping up more and more in a lot of these films. She was really good in this, but the premise and it just, and this was by, I believe it's M. Night Shyamalan's daughter. He had like some hand in like producing the film, but it had that feel. It had that M. Night Shyamalan feel, and like a lot of M. Night Shyamalan's movies, it really like the twist didn't deliver for me. Like all right, I got it. There was so it's basically about this group of people find themselves like lost in these woods, and it's almost like the series From, the MGM series From, where like they pass this point in the woods and you can't get out of it, and like you're trying to figure out what the hell's going on here. And they end up like you have to be in this room that has one wall is all glass. It's one-way glass, so you can't see who's looking at you, but they have to look at you. It was just, I mean, the premise was good. I felt like they just didn't execute. That's why I had it at 13. It's partially because of my expectation, because of the name, and then it just didn't deliver in the end, I felt, I mean, it had some good moments, it had some good parts, it kept you guessing early, but then once you kind of got into it, it wasn't like really the best. So that's my number 13. And like I said, to make my 13 list, I must have seen about at least 30 to 40 horror movies this year. I mean, I have Shudder, I have Screambox, I see a lot of like obscure shit. That doesn't make the list. A couple of them did, but very few. It's very rare that you find some of those like really hidden gems. Because if there was a lot of hidden gems, then they wouldn't really be hidden gems, would they? They'd just be like, oh, this is the movie I watched yesterday and it was pretty good. No, hidden gems, we need the shitty movies to have the hidden gems. You know what I'm saying? So let's move on. Number 12, You'll Never Find Me. All right, I think this was a Shudder movie. Might have been Netflix. I don't remember. Very like slow-paced, low-key, psychological movie where you got this girl and she just shows up at this guy's. I believe it was like a trailer, but it's his home. But like he's living in a trailer park or whatever, and it's like a stormy night. She shows up, says, "Hey, my whatever. I don't even remember. My car died, or she needed some shelter. She needed to use a phone, and this guy lets her in, but then like the whole movie is like kind of the two of them just having this conversation about you start to find out who he is, who she is, what's going on. It's a psychological thriller more than a horror. But there are some horror elements to it. I thought it was entertaining, but it's not for everybody. It's gonna kind of grate on some of you people that are looking for a little more like activity. I wouldn't even say action, just like activity in a movie, rather than two people sitting across from each other just having a conversation for an hour and a half or whatever it was. It's decent, worth checking out. Every movie on my top 13 is worth looking at. I would say like the first 6 movies of this, I won't endorse fully, but you can, maybe some people would find some enjoyment out of it. It might hit some people. It might land in somebody's wheelhouse. I don't know. But for me, what I like, they didn't really hit. They didn't check all the boxes. All right. Number 11, and this is a movie that checked off some of the boxes, and it was so disappointing that it didn't check off more. I'm talking about Taro. I saw the preview for this. When I saw the trailer, I was very excited because I loved what they did with the like demonic presences. I guess you would say, like the. There was a lot. So in other words, so if you're not familiar with this movie, these kids, they find this old like deck of tarot cards, and the illustrations on the tarot cards are very detailed and very creepy. And I felt like the premise was great. Like let's take a creepy old deck of tarot cards and like actually animate some of the illustrations on the cards, like the Hanged Man, death, all this shit, and make them even creepier. And that part of it was great. I mean, the when they do personify these like characters, these illustrations, they are creepy. But then it gets old really quick. Like, how many times can you just have something that is like, it's in the dark, a flash of lightning, you see him like down a hallway, and then the next flash of lightning, he's closer, and then the next flash of lightning, it's like, how many times are you gonna do that? You know what I mean? Like, it was very unoriginal. They dropped the ball with what I felt was a good premise. The characters, I didn't care about the characters. The acting sucked. I mean, I wouldn't say it sucked. It was just kind of like, yeah, it was like par for the course for like a shitty horror movie, where it seemed like the production value was up here and the casting and the acting was down here. And then they just tried to compensate for the acting with a little too much reveal on the creatures or whatever you want to call them. So yeah, Taro, it bothered me because they really dropped the ball on what could have been a really good movie. So we'll go to number 10, Immaculate. And this might be biased, all right? Number one, I saw this right before I watched another film very similar that I'm going to talk about later. And I felt this was trying to rip that off and get down the pipe first, if you know what I'm saying. But on top of that, I am not really, like, I don't get the whole Sydney Sweeney fucking like love fest lately. It's kind of like goes with like my Mia Goth, and I'll get to that too because I left any of her movies off of this list. I think it's just like fanboys having a crush on somebody that's like cute and looks like they would, but they're also like into like the horror stuff. Like I think it's a fanboy crush thing because neither one of them is really a good actress. I mean, show me something where Sydney Sweeney or Mia Goth carried a movie or was even like worth mentioning other than that they look pretty. You know what I'm saying? So Immaculate, I felt like was a preemptive ripoff. Like they knew the first Omen was coming out and they tried to like get this other like religious quasi satanic religious like movie, like whatever it was. Wasn't a big fan. So that's my number 10. And the fact that it's at my number 10, that's saying a lot because I mean I didn't hate it. Like I remember the movie ending, and I'm like, it was, you know what I mean? Like, I was just like, well, all right, it was all right, you know? Like, I didn't hate it, but it barely broke my top 10. So anybody that's like telling you, oh, that's a must watch, and that's only halfway through the year, it's not saying much. My number nine, I don't even consider this really a horror. I mean, it's definitely sci-fi, which is it's right up my alley. It's definitely like a tense movie, a very very tense. I guess there's some horror involved. Like if you're on a space station and you can't trust the people that are in the next like wing or the section of the what I mean. Like if there's like all of a sudden. So the premise of this is, you got Americans, Russian. I think it was pretty sure Russians, different people, Koreans, maybe North Koreans. I don't remember. I might be confused with something else, but you got these people working together, friendly on the International Space Station, and then a nuclear war breaks out on the Earth, where communications are cut off. Nobody knows what to expect, and nobody knows. Like all they have is the last command that you got from your country and your government. And if that last command is if one side got their last command last, and it says go to the other side and kill them and take like whatever it is, there's tension. Yes, horror. I don't know. But this has been classified as a horror movie. I don't see it as a horror movie. That's why I got it low. I mean, I might put this higher on my sci-fi list because of the state of sci-fi today. But yeah, ISS. That's at my number 9 that I've seen so far this year. Number 8. All right, and this is a good movie to watch as a preempt to seeing a remake that's going to come out later this year. I'm talking about Sting. I really liked this movie. It was fun. It had a little bit of comedy elements to it, but it was also very creepy. I have a fear and with an equal amount of respect for arachnids, if that makes sense. Like, I don't like them. I don't know about them. Like, I don't know which ones I can let crawl on my arm and which ones are going to bite me and cause a big contusion. Like, I just don't know. What I do know is if you leave them alone, as long as they leave me alone, I'll leave them alone. As long as you stay to your corners and your dark little places and eat the bugs that I don't want to see, me and you are simpatico, man. That's what I would call a symbiotic relationship. But if I find you crawling anywhere near my bed or my kitchen, you are dead. And that's kind of my relationship with arachnids. So this movie was really it kind of hit home for me, and it's like if you had a kid and they caught a spider and they were like really like fascinated by it, and they got the bell jar where you poke the holes in it, what I mean? Every kid has had a bug at some point and they did this, and you just kind of you think you're giving them a little terrarium and you throw a stick in there or whatever, and then you just kind of watch it and see what it does. It grows its web, but you didn't realize that you didn't make the holes big enough for a fly to get in, so he ends up dying. Well, this guy gets out and becomes, and I think it's not like a normal spider, but anyway, my favorite premise of any horror movie, he gets out, gets loose in this apartment building, and chaos ensues. So that's Sting is a really good movie, especially if you have any high hopes for the remake of Arachnophobia that's supposed to come out later this year. We'll be talking about that on my most anticipated releases for the remainder of the year. So that's Sting. That's my number 8. Number 7. All right, so this is one I didn't mention that I have a lot of movies that I've watched this year that have come out this year on Shudder or whatever streaming service, Screenbox and all those. I'm not mentioning a lot of them on here. A lot of times when you're watching these movies, they're just kind of like they're in and out. Like they're not memorable. This one was, all right, and it's called Loop Track, all right. And this is my number 7, so we're heading into the top half of my top 13. And this movie, I gotta say, was very. It's either New Zealand or Australian released. And it's just about this guy who's trying to get away from everything. He's kind of an introvert. He's very off-putting. The actor who plays the main character, I can't imagine him not being this way because he played it so good. Like he just doesn't want to be around people. He went off and went on this like kind of popular hiking trail, which if you're trying to get away from people, why would you go on a popular hiking trail? Because it was kind of the end of the season. I guess he thought he could just like disappear into the woods. But the whole movie, he's trying to avoid people. Every time he sees people, he kind of dives into the bushes and just waits and watches them. And it's really creepy, like that he's just watching these people. And then he comes into contact with this guy that will not go away. He's just like one of those extroverts that just need somebody to share his experiences. And he just like one thing leads to another. Like this guy cannot get rid of him. I can relate. Like I think that's why I like this movie so much because I am an introvert. I don't really like small talk. I don't want to meet new people unless I have to. Once I meet you and if I like you, like we can be friends forever. I'm like that. But I've lost my trust. I'm an old crotchety old man these days. Cantankerous, fucking ornery, whatever adjectives you want to give. That's me. But it's only because of my past experience dealing with people. So I can I fully related to what this guy was trying to do, like just get away from people, and these people would not let him get away. So the first half of this movie is just about this guy like just getting like aggravated by these people and trying to look for ways to get away without like being like really confrontational. But it halfway through the movie, it just takes a fucking turn and it goes a whole different direction. I highly recommend this Loop Track. It's definitely on Shudder. It might be on Prime. Look for it. It's a like I said, it's either New Zealand or Australian movie. Highly recommend it. That's my number 7. Number 6 is all right. So a lot has been talked about Nicolas Cage this year. Another guy that he just keeps doing it, man. He keeps just figuring out new ways of entertaining people. You know what I mean? Like you think back to his Academy Award winning performance in Leaving Las Vegas, like how different that was from what he does now, and he's still fucking at the top of his game. I don't care. And he may lay some eggs. You know, he'll throw some duds out there. But I'll tell you, recently this guy he can't miss. So I mean, this guy is just he doesn't get brought up enough in like the conversations of the best actors of all time. You know, and he should. I mean, who do you talk about when you talk about those things? You're talking about your Daniel Day-Lewis's, your Gary Oldman's, your Al Pacino's, your all these guys, your Robert De Niro's. Nicolas Cage doesn't come up because why? Because he'll just take any job and he'll try to make that project better. And you can see he pours everything into it. So my number 6 movie on this list is the first of 2 Nicolas Cage films. Obviously, I don't think that's any surprise here. And I'm a big fan of the post-apocalyptic genre. If you're, the very first podcast that I did, both on All Geeked Out and on my first little project it's not really dead. It's just kind of in a hiatus. But the movie Misfits. And if I encourage anybody to, if you like this video, even if you don't like this video, the movie Misfits was a much better produced. It's a lot better quality production, so to speak. And I definitely say if you like the content here, you want to see some good top 20 lists, or even like some stuff off that I don't really do a lot, like the Marvel stuff and like comics and stuff like that. Like, go check out the Movie Misfits. We're hoping to get some more content up on there soon. I'm obviously involved in this project, and some of the other people involved in the Movie Misfits are doing their own stuff. But at some point we will collaborate again. Arcadian is a post-apocalyptic film. It's kind of in the realm of A Quiet Place, or even like Bird Box, where there's like this apocalypse. They don't really know. Now, this film does have flaws. So Nicolas Cage is a father of these two boys, twins, I believe they say, like fraternal twins, but twins nonetheless. I'm pretty sure they say somewhere in there that they were twins. They don't look the same. They don't even look the same age. But one of them is more like headstrong and like kind of like bullheaded, and the other one he likes to analyze everything. So one of them's all about action, and the other one's all about sitting back, strategizing. And then like he's more of a tactician, which is a great contrast, and they play that well. So this is not like totally a Nicolas Cage movie, so to speak. Like, he's very present, like omnipresent in the film. Like, everything is about dad, and but he's not in every scene. He might be in like less than half of the scenes. But when he is on screen, he commands your attention. Like, it's almost like you're one of his kids that he's looking out for. And it's definitely a creature flick. Like, I don't know if you call them cryptids. I mean, I think cryptids are like more lore. Like, these are more like kind of like, they're very similar to the creatures from A Quiet Place, like in look. Like, they're like kind of like quadrupeds, and but it seems like they could stand up, or you don't really know a lot about them. They have these like weird limbs that kind of unfold, and then like they got like this telescopic aspect to it. Really weird creatures. I like them, and I like the fact that they never really just show you one of them straight up. You know what I mean? Like, you kind of get glimpses. There's a couple of scenes where you kind of see it come out, and then just when you think you know what it looks like, it kind of like transforms into something else. The movements are really strange, which is good. Just a really, really good end of the world creature flick. With Nicolas Cage in a great role, and he plays a very major part, even when he's not like acting. He's just, like I said, omnipresent in this movie. Loved Arcadian, and especially it was almost like an appetizer to what he was going to do later in the year with Longlegs. And I love this. I almost wanted to put this a little higher, but the only thing was, because I'm such a post-apocalyptic fan, I had like really, really high hopes for this. And when I left it left me with a couple of just like moments, you know what I mean? But it's really a quality flick, and I think a lot of people would like it a lot more than I do. And the fact that it had nowhere near the hype going into it as like Longlegs did. Like, I feel like you could go into this movie, watch this, and just take it for what it is. And if you like that kind of movie, you like it. If you don't, hey, it's by this time it's free, so you're not going out and spending money to watch it. So, number 5, okay? And so now we're getting into my top 5 horror movies that I've seen thus far this year. And when I get into my top 5, like I said earlier, I watch a lot of obscure horror movies. My wife, and you, if you followed our podcast, you've met my wife. She's very much into a lot of the same kind of movies that I am. But then I go a little deeper into like certain genres than she does. So when I say that I watch a lot of obscure horror movies, I usually watch them on my own. That said, my top five is stuff that either I was really anticipating or really just looking forward to and had a lot of hype. And these are the ones that I usually say, like, hey, babe, I'd like you to watch this with me. I think you'll like it. Now, sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. But who am I? Who am I to say what she likes? So, without further ado, I would like to introduce my beautiful wife, Julie. And she's going to come on and kind of help dissect these top five horror movies that I watched. Julie, please come in. And, oh, look at that. She submerges out of the content.
What up?
Hey, how you doing, babe? Hey, how are you? So great to see you here. It's so great to not be alone on this. Oh wait, let's get you.
No.
There we go.
No, that's good.
All right, so we're gonna get right into my top five horror movies released so far this year. Okay. My number five is a movie that I know we watched together. Okay. And it's Abigail. Now, do you remember the movie that I'm talking about?
Yes.
Abigail. Okay. This movie definitely made me think of the movie Megan, which I know you saw.
Yeah.
Remember the movie Megan with the girl that was like an android?
Yeah.
And then like complete with like the dance routine, like that creepy dance thing. Like Abigail does the same thing. Like I thought the movie was great. I thought it was fun. Not particularly scary,
No.
but like, you know, and even like
It
there
was a
was
little gruesome.
yeah, there were certain parts that they thought should be like maybe, you know, horrific, but overall it was just a fun movie. I don't know what your take was on it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was enjoyable. You know, it was fun to watch. Horror, you could. I mean, it definitely has the horror elements to it. You know, it definitely has like a vampire type.
It kind of like showed you like with the previews and stuff.
Yeah,
like how
yeah.
it's gonna be.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think there's something to be said there. Like horror movie trailers tend to give away way too much. Like if they're not confident that they're gonna get like a lot of people to watch the movie, they'll just give shit away in the trailer just to get you to watch it. You know, so Abigail, this is my number five. So that's gonna get us into our number four. Number four movie of 2024 that has been out already that you can go see now. And that's something that I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Immaculate, and it's The First Omen. So this movie is obviously another entry into a very established franchise with The Omen. I liked it. I thought it was very creepy. I thought the girl that plays the main character she played it well. I kind of figured out what was going on early on. Like I think I even said it to you while we were watching it. Like I like she's gonna have whatever. We're trying not to be spoiler here.
I mean, come on. If you haven't seen it since then.
Well, yeah, but still, there's a lot of movies on here. Some people might not have seen them. But what I will say about this movie is I loved how they like made the transition into the original series seamless, and you can attest to that because I think as soon as we watched this movie, didn't I put on like the original one and we watched it, the original Omen?
I can't remember. Probably I was asleep.
We did. So it did make a seamless transition to the original. Like I said, we watched that and then immediately watched the original, and it kind of enhanced the enjoyment of the original. So
that's not like the Rosemary's Baby, right?
I mean, you could make comparisons, but it's definitely different. This is
well,
definitely.
doesn't she get pregnant by the devil?
Yeah. I mean, but that was like the whole premise of that movie. Whereas that was kind of like.
It's kind of like a little different if you think like.
Yeah.
So you have like a bunch of people. I don't know if these people. I'm assuming were part of the church.
Some kind of like a devil
thing that impregnates her. She has the same thing.
Hey, you got a point. It's very, very Rosemary's Baby-esque, if you would say it that way. But yeah, that's like as far as what has come out this year, I put that right up in my top 5. It's my number 4. Definitely good. The production value was great. I mean, they didn't pull no punches. Very enjoyable watch. Obviously, being a part of such a revered franchise, if you will, it could have some negative reviews from people that are fans of the franchise. But I really enjoyed it. You enjoyed it, right? It was pretty good. Hey, it's a good one. Check it out. The First Omen. So now we're in my top 3. And these could be like pretty much rearranged in any order. Number 3 was a very, very highly anticipated movie that came out, released straight to Shudder, if I'm not wrong. This is one that just has like a very 70s aesthetic. And I just love the way they set it up. The setup alone of this movie was better than anything else on this list. And I'm talking about Late Night with the Devil. And a lot of people will have this number 1. And I can't argue with that. But this movie for me, like I'm a child of I was born in 1972. I remember, the late night talk show era where that was all you had. Like you didn't have streaming, you didn't have HBO, you didn't have anything else to watch late at night if you were a night owl, and you just watched Johnny Carson, or even going back further than that, like a Jack Parr, or later than that you had your David Letterman, and this kind of reminded me of the David Letterman, Johnny Carson era where. Like, Letterman was definitely great, but he could never just overcome Johnny Carson. And with the film we're talking about is obviously Late Night with the Devil. And this movie kind of personified that era where, you can kind of look at Jack Delroy. Do you remember? It was something like that. This guy who played by Dumichel, very character actor, but this is like the first time I've seen him like in a starring role, and he was great. I mean, he was excellent in this.
It gets a little weird at one point.
It got weird, yes, and then I don't like the end. The end where like the lightning bolts are traveling through the thing, sparks. It reminded me a lot of the end of a really classic British kind of semi-found footage movie called Ghostwatch. Ghostwatch was a great movie about. It was supposed to be like almost found footage mockumentary style that the BBC put out on Halloween night one year. I don't remember what year it was. And they pretended to do like a ghost hunters on a house. And it was all, like done up. Like, it was fake, but they made it look so real. But at the end, the studio starts exploding and sparks, and it's like, all right, this is bullshit. Like, that's kind of how I felt about the end of Late Night with the Devil. That's probably what kept it from my top spot. because it was really good. I loved it. It lived up. It had high expectations. Like you could only this year, the only expectations you could compare to a horror movie of Late Night with the Devil is Longlegs. Um, and this one almost delivered. It delivered more, I felt, than Longlegs, despite the fact that I have Longlegs ranked higher. And there's a spoiler to my list because my number 2 is not Longlegs, so you obviously know what number 1 is. But number 2 is a movie that a lot of people did not like. I remember seeing this movie was coming out, and I was so thrilled because it's something different, something new, done with an 80s style slasher movie that we haven't seen, and how we're in the fucking we're 40 years after the 80s, or 30 years, 34 years to be exact. But in 34 years, nobody has come up with something different to do with an 80s style slasher until now. And we're talking about In a Violent Nature. I don't care what all you people say about this movie. Okay? It sucked. It was dragged out. It was a ripoff of Friday the 13th or whatever fucking movie. I don't get what she said. I don't care. This was a new way of looking at a genre that has been played out for years. And yeah, did they drag out some of the scenes of, just following the guy walking? Like, it kind of felt like you were just playing a third person.
Yeah, like a
video game. Yeah, they did. All right. Did you pay attention during those scenes, or did you just write them off? Because if you're paying attention during those scenes, as he gets closer to people, you start to hear them talking very,
I still don't know why
loud.
He was doing that.
Of course, you do. If you paid attention, because that's what happens. People lost interest in this movie because of the pacing of the movie. Okay, and the only reason I did not put this number 1 was because of Nicolas Cage's, performance in Longlegs. That's the only reason. Because this movie was far superior to Longlegs in what it did and what it did for the genre. And I get it. It might not be as entertaining for some people. Case in point.
Yeah.
But you're not a big slasher fan. Anyway.
No, I just didn't get the point of it.
Yeah, but when you can do something different in a genre that has been around for 40 years, that alone is a reason to celebrate what you did. And when you can do it in a way that, all right, so maybe they ripped off. Did they rip it off? Did they rip off Friday the 13th? I mean, yeah, the guy, you cannot deny that the dude looks like Jason Voorhees. All right, I get that. But the premise is way different. The whole storyline is way different. And it makes you pay attention to what the story is. You're not going to get the whole storyline from a bunch of teenagers that are telling this old urban legend or whatever, what have you. It's all coming from his... And they do have that one scene where they're all around the campfire talking about the legend of Johnny and all this shit. But I mean, I cannot... I challenge everybody's horror membership card that puts this down. All right? Because you have to respect it for what it is. It's a new way of watching. And I feel like if they did this and they called it Friday the 13th Part 2.2. Get what I'm saying? And they did it from Jason's perspective. They did the whole movie just from his eyes and watched all the kills that we know and love, which is kind of fucking weird to
because
say.
I don't like Jason movies.
Well, that's yeah. But I'm just saying. But you're not alone. You're not alone in not liking this movie. A lot of people didn't like this movie. But I feel like those people are not horror movie addicts like I am. And this movie, if you're that much into horror movies, you have to respect this movie for what it is. You have to at least appreciate what they did here.
Yeah.
Because it took a lot of balls to make this movie. And it took a lot of, convincing, I'm sure, to get it, like funded and actually released by a studio. And they're already talking about making a sequel, which I fully disagree with. Like, this is gonna be a one and done. Like, do not try to make a fucking franchise out of this, because it's gonna fail and it's gonna take away from what this movie was. But yeah, I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say, like, if you're a horror movie addict or fan, and you didn't like this movie, you need to go back and watch it again and just like accept it for what it is, because it's something you'll never see, you should never see again. And I'm gonna fucking disagree with any attempts to make this a sequel.
I give it a 2.
That's fine. And you're not alone. A lot of people didn't like it.
Not being gracious, yeah.
But if you're a big fan of the 80s slashes, and like a true fan of the 80s slashes, and you're just looking to see something different, you want to see it from you want that opening scene from the original Halloween where you're seeing it through the eyes of the killer. And I think they did it. And I think they pulled it off. It maybe not for everybody. It's definitely not for everybody. But if you're a fucking horror fan and you don't like this movie, leave a fucking comment and tell me why you didn't like this. Because you should respect every fucking thing they did in this movie if you consider yourself a horror fan. That's all I'm going to say. So we're just going to go right into my number one movie that I've seen. Horror movie that I've seen. And I'm going to get a lot more fucking kickback from this one here. But it's The Longlegs. And I'm going to say, the hype, it was not worth the hype. The hype train on this was astronomical. I appreciate what they did. I appreciate what Neon Pictures, or whatever they call themselves, Neon, they're playing catch up. They're trying to catch up to A24 and Blumhouse. Blumhouse, I think.
Is that a new thing, Neon?
No, they're not new, but they're like,
I've never heard of it.
Trying to. They've been around a while, but they do a lot of obscure shit. But they felt like they caught lightning in a bottle with this. Like, they're like, this could be something like really big. This could just catapult them right up into the A24. A24 is like a film studio that up to like a few years back, they were very obscure. They hit on a bunch of, and pretty sure they were horror movies and thrillers that they hit on, and they got really big. Blumhouse is another one that just caught lightning in a bottle, and then one thing led to another. They're one of the biggest production studios out there. Neon is looking at that like path to success and saying, hey, all you need is that one big fucking low budget film that just appeals to the masses, that can make a ton of money and put us up there. So they preempted the movie with a huge marketing campaign. I mean, you had billboards. Yeah, so you had billboards with a phone number with just like the Longlegs picture on it. That's all that was there. It was just a phone number. So people would call it, and it was Nick Cage's voice, like, with that like really creepy like sound to it, and you just call it. It was just a recording. And it was like, that was it. It was like, all right, that's nothing. But it gets you invested in the movie, and they pushed a little too hard. I think like a lot of people still like the movie. I went into it with high expectations. I usually like temper that, but this one I just let myself go, and it hurt my overall appreciation of the movie. I think if I go back and watch this, like at home when it comes on streaming, I'm gonna have a whole new appreciation for it. Well, I mean, what was your? I know what your thoughts were, but
I didn't like it.
Sure.
I thought it was weird.
All right, that's you can't just end it there. You gotta let us know. You know.
I don't know.
What,
I don't want to say too much of it.
So what didn't you like about it?
I like everything about it. I thought it was just.
That's so lazy right there.
It's I don't know. It was just to me. It was kind of boring at first.
So you don't like anything about it. So like you could have done without everything.
Yeah, it's like weird. I don't know. I can't even.
It was
explain
weird. Was it creepy?
No, it wasn't creepy.
It wasn't creepy. So you didn't even find like Nicolas Cage creepy at all.
I didn't even know it was him at first.
Oh, you knew it was him.
And I didn't know what was going on. Basically,
all right.
I didn't know who that guy was.
So this is so to all you horror movie addicts out there,
and then
like me,
the mother was weird.
Your wife isn't gonna like this. All right, don't try to take her to this. It's not The Silence of the Lambs. It's not Seven. It's not in a universally appealing movie. Okay, and I will say, despite ranking this number one, I didn't like a lot of the aspects of this. And it contradicts my whole point of.
Like, was she psychic? Like, I don't get it. Like,
yeah,
that girl.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that...
Well, there's a lot of things that I can explain. But my point is, my putting this at number one is because I think when I watch it again, I'm going to like it a lot more. I did not appreciate being bamboozled by Neon. I didn't. No, sir. I didn't like it. I didn't like that. I didn't like that aspect of it. So, I love the movie. I wouldn't even say I loved it, but I did like it for what it was. I did appreciate it for what it was, and I'm pretty sure when I watch it again, I'm gonna have a whole new appreciation for it. That's why I put it at my number one. They didn't have enough of Nicolas Cage, and which is good. I mean, you don't put your boogeyman out front and center, the whole time, because then he's not the boogeyman anymore. He's just a ugly dude. But I'm waiting. I'm holding out hope that I think this is going to be one that I can rewatch and have a new appreciation for. Do all these horror movies have flaws? Yes. You tell me a year where there's a horror movie without a flaw, and
yeah, they do have flaws.
They always do, because that's what makes them horror. But that's what makes them endearing. That's what makes us appreciate a good horror movie. So that's our top 13. That's my top 13. Obviously, it's not her top 13. I felt like my top 5, I needed somebody to balance out my enthusiasm for it, and it worked out well. So thank you, babe. And we're going to see her again very soon in our next episode of All Geeked Out, where we talk about my top 13. Did that work? Oh, wait. Let's go this way. 13. Horror movies yet to come out this year that I'm highly anticipating. Hope you're anticipating them too. Thank you for joining us. Hey, thank you for joining. And watch them. It didn't work. Wait, let's try it. Wait till it does.
Woo!
All right. I'll
I like that.
So, yes. Thank you for being with All Geeked Out podcast. Once again, top 13 horror movies that we have seen already. We're going to come back very soon with our top 13 most anticipated horror movies coming out this year. Some really good ones in there that we're going to recommend that you see. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.